All right, thanks everyone for joining. So, today is the second part of the deep thriving in the age of AI. Today's topic is something that I've lately heard a lot from people, just personally too, but also in media as well, which is that right now our future feels very uncertain. And I think AI is playing very significant role into that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And okay, so everybody's feeling right now. If you're feeling quite a bit of uncertainty right now, that's very normal. But we will talk about it today that why uncertainty can feel very stressful, and so this is not very kind of long-term strategies that we feel keep moving, pushing ourselves in this way when we're feeling so uncertain and stressful. This session that what we're going to do is that we're going to see how we can actually feel more kind of calmer, less stressed, have more clarity, and have more kind of sense of in control as we're in this long game with AI and other uncertainty. And I just want to let everybody know that this is being recorded. And I would focusing on when I post it online and share with other people, focusing on presentation portion. But you're also welcome to chime in and participating. I'll do my best to edit those out, but it might not be perfect. I just want to give you the warning. But otherwise, yeah, I'm very happy to share this video. So when people couldn't join today live, they can watch it later. All right. So I want to ask you right now, just so that everybody has just a certain sense reflecting, I'm feeling quite uncertain, but it's useful to reflecting that how much of that feeling is in terms of the magnitude. So I want you to think about when you think about AI, and then also your professional future, how much uncertainty are you feeling right now? And then that goes from one, very little uncertainty, all the way to five, a great deal of uncertainty. So you can go ahead and then choose your answer. And the next question that I have is that what is uncertainty behind your rating? So pick like a one word that describes the uncertainty that you're probably most acutely feeling. That's probably driving your rating here. All right. So if you were rated pretty high on uncertainty, you're certainly not alone. Let's focus on uncertainty that's quite related to current situation and landscape with AI. And a recent study survey that was done last year, Pew Research Center, which is very well respected survey study organization, and more than half of the workers, they actually feel more worried and feeling more hopeful about AI and their job future. And I think that more kind of recent statistics that I see is that this type of kind of sentiment has increased rather than being decreased. And also, many people now, research studies coming out reporting very strong feeling of AI anxiety, which is the kind of term now being used in academic field as well, as worry about their jobs, the values of their skills, and what might come next. And so, as being this kind of anxious feeling and uncertainty being very common feeling right now, that one thing that I want to put out there as a starting point for all of us is that if you're feeling these right now, it's completely normal. It's just very typical, our human and adaptive response, which I would explain as us as a human being. And so, what is uncertainty anyway? When we talk about uncertainty, like what is it? How can we define it? So, uncertainty is the feeling that you cannot fully understand or predict or control what's coming. And so, the more kind of academic psychological definition is that it's that kind of perceived insufficient information or unreliable or unstable information that make it really hard for you to understand what is happening and predict what is going to happen and evaluating that, how important this is going to be in terms of my survival, my success, and ability kind of you can choose how I can effectively deal with this situation. So basically, you really don't feel like you have quite enough that information to make all of very important decisions in here. So example would be, I don't know whether AI will change my job or when that might happen or how much it might change. Was it completely new kind of job that I need to find? Will I ever be able to find another job? So all these feelings of uncertainty tends to go together. Other some terms that you have heard of, unpredictability that I cannot predict, uncontrollability. I don't have to control what will happen, and instability that things are just keep moving and change. So all of these are happening with AI right now. And it comes from mainly the two things. So when you're thinking about what is causing the uncertainty and the feeling of uncertainty, you can think about you're lacking two types of things. One is that you just don't have enough information. You're not having very good grasp of the situations to understand what's happening and what's going to happen. So that's number one reason why things can feel uncertain. The number two reason is that you also do not have the control over what is going to happen, even if you want to. And you can see that how those two are also related. You don't have enough information, so you feel like you also don't have control over making changes. And with AI, I think these two kind of forces that not having enough information, not having enough control are coming really full speed and full strength because it's changing so fast. It's so hard for us to be stay on the top of it and being informed everything that's happening. So we definitely have a lack of information and a lot of things that's influencing us, our life and our work. It's being done above kind of our control. So it is the kind of situation that we feel like we just have absolutely no control over a lot of things that can happen in our life and will have a very important impact to us. That's why AI right now feels so uncertain. Very lack of information, of trying to understand everything that's happening, and lack of control that I feel like I have no influence over what is happening right now at all. And so why uncertainty then is so tiring as we being in this uncertain age of AI, everybody's feeling quite tired, quite anxious, quite stressful. And that is because we are trying so really hard to adapt to this situation. So consciously, unconsciously, we still really want to predict and control and make us feel safer and better. So then what happens is what our brain tells us to do is that be on alert because we don't know what is going to happen. And I have not enough information to really predict what's going to happen, how to respond. So just be alert all the time. So we say that that is the very persistent, consistent vigilance and when you're being on alert, trying to be like reacting as fast as possible, that make us to be on this kind of state, feeling stressed and anxious, eventually make us to feel really worn down and having low mood because it is very energy consuming state. And so when you look at kind of your behaviors, you might be able to see it that how it can actually really lead to this a state for us that make us feel very tired, both physically and psychologically. You're unsure, you're uncertain that whether your company will announce restructuring and layoffs. So you may be checking your emails constantly. You're on alert. You want to protect, you want to react as soon as possible. Also, you're uncertain that whether your expertise, your skills will remain valuable. So you keep monitoring the AI news, keep worrying about what you should do next. So again, very normal, very adaptive response to protect yourself, protect your future. But it's you can also see that it's drawing a lot of energy for kind of to be on alert all the time. And when we're on alert, the kind of feeling that we have is the anxiety. Something might happen, something might bad happen or important to happen. So I would always be looking out and prepared for. So now we understand that uncertainty is stressful, can cause anxiety, feeling tired. I think the question that we should ask is not so much that how do I stop feeling uncertain? Because feeling uncertain in this uncertain landscape of AI is completely normal response. The right question to ask is that how do I manage the stress and anxiety that comes with uncertainty? So we can manage that first, so we can keep moving forward, even though my surrounding circumstances continues to be uncertain. So let's focus on talking about that today. And I would just tell you right away that the widely recognized most effective first step strategist dealing with uncertainty is control what you can control. With AI right now, certainly that we're in the situation that we cannot control the whole situation. So it's very important that now we're finding the smaller part. There's always something in our life. There's smaller part that we can still have influence on. So we pull back all our energies being on alert about something that we cannot control and focusing our energy into things that we can control. And that starts from having that clarity of understanding what we can control versus what we cannot control. And then focusing our energy and motivation into those things that we can control. And if you don't really know right now that what you can control, it's okay. We're going to walk together to identify what those are. And let's focusing on the job situation for today as an example, but you may be feeling uncertain about other things too. But about your job or our job, what I cannot control is, for example, I don't know what my company decides to do or my exact role will still exist. I feel uncertain. I am a professor at a university. I have no idea that, with the AI can teach, students are using AI. So how they learn should also really change. That means how we teach should really change. I have no idea what our universities will do with AI, letting students to use it, letting faculty members to use it. I don't know. And in terms of my exact role as a teacher will be even needed in a few years, or university will actually go through some restructuring. I do not know. So those are the things that I don't have enough information. I have no control over. What are some things that I have control over? So I do worry about those things. Some of the things that I do have the control over is for me starting some type of new project that I do feel like it can still have the value and then I can grow my skills into it. So what I'm doing right now is my way of I trying to control my situation that showing you what we can learn from psychology research and neuroscience research to what the best way to dealing with uncertainty and sharing that with as many people as possible is very rewarding project. So it's for me focusing on my energy into that is my effort of trying to control as well. And we can also build our network, learning from talking to other people who are in a similar situation or providing some more support. That's somewhat in our control. And if we feel like we don't know anyone who can really help us, what I usually do is that I also read books or listen to interviews. So still, those are under my control. I can still grow. I can still learn. I can still developing something and creating new opportunities. And this is going to help us to feel not as stuck and feel more prepared. And at this point, why it's important to find some areas that's under control, because when we feel like we're in control, that lowers that feeling of uncertainty. And as a result, it makes us feel more hopeful and optimistic. So recently, I saw this survey result by the tech workers, a sentiment survey. They have interviewed thousands of tech workers. And one of the findings I found very interesting. So they found that so they surveyed from entry level to mid to high and CEO and founders. Included all those people in the survey. And they found that 71% of the founders reported optimistic about their career when and less than half of the other kind of levels of the people or types of the tech workers say they feel optimistic. So it turned out that in this survey, it was very clear that the founders were like happiest right now, but it's not because they're less busy or stressed. Then what is it? So the survey doesn't really talk too much about it, but my interpretation related to today's topic is I think one of the reason that can be is that founders have more influence on over what they work on, and so because they feel more in control, that they might actually feel a little bit more optimistic that when they're using AI, the AI is actually helping them and supporting them. So again, I think when we feel like we have more control, it's much easier for us to feel less stressed and feel more positive about what's happening. Oh, maybe this is a new opportunity to do something I want. So I want to say this kind of gaining that feeling of the control is key aspect when navigating very uncertain situations. So what should I do? So let's take the first step together. So I prepared this worksheet that you can actually walk together with me. And so you can apply this to your own situation. So you can go to this Google link to find the worksheet, or you can also just write down the note as I show you the each steps together. All right. The first step is to identify the kind of your concerns and uncertainty. So, what is exactly that you're feeling most uncertain about your future at work? Again, we're focusing on work aspect right now, but you can apply this in other aspects of your life. And so, first, just as it comes to your mind, don't think too deeply about it. Write down three worries or three uncertainties about your future at work right now. I can share the link here, but you can also just do it in your note. All right. And then let's see the full screen. Okay. And then choose the one that weighs on you most. So pick one and try to make it as specific as possible. Okay. So then the next is that noticing that how you've been reacting to those. So when this worry about uncertainty show up, what do you usually feel or think or do? What do you usually do in response? So maybe just three different things: your feelings, your thoughts, some kind of reoccurring thoughts that you have in your head, or things that you do. Some things that I do a lot is that I want to eat chocolates. Those are just one simple example, or I keep searching for related news to obviously finding more informations about it because I'm worried. So yeah, you can write down those three things. Okay, let's talk about these reactions. It will be related to the things, it's kind of helpful understanding your reactions in terms of us having better clarity at what we can control and what we cannot control. Also, how we should be reacting to the things that we can control versus some things that we cannot control. So, these reactions that we typically have that cause us stress is called coping strategies in psychology. And whenever we have something that make us feel stressed, we react. We react because it is not a very pleasant state and we want to be out of that state as quickly as possible. And all of us, depending on how we are taught, our culture, our family, our parents modeling, we have a different ways that we cope. And there's not really right or wrong coping strategies, But psychology does have a lot of research on this topic to see, on average, what type of coping strategies are more effective versus ineffective. And the kind of a criteria to decide whether it is effective or ineffective is not only it is helping us to feeling less stressed, but that effect of being feeling can last long time. So is this that behavioral strategist that I have has actually really essentially resolved the situation, or it was very temporarily? So we tend to consider those strategies that very good and lowering our stress level. And also that it seems to lower that stress level for a very long time. Those are effective strategies that we consider in psychology. So would it lead to even worse outcomes like critical clinical depression and some other things as well, right? And those strategies tend to be something we engage with the source of that stress. So one is reframing, which considered to be really golden strategies, like one of the most effective, but also hardest strategies to implement, which is really looking at that negative situations in different light. Like you're really shedding more kind of fuller, more kind of positive lights. So thinking differently about it. The reaching out to people like social support has been very effective strategies to deal with stress. Another one is really actively engaging solving that problem. So seeking information, getting advice, making some decisions, really dealing with it. So those are good strategies, but not easy. I know for sure, and especially uncertain situations. So, since I say that reframing, cognitive reappraisal, in another word, I have been considered to be very effective coping strategist, I do want to explain just a little more. If you can implement this in your life, it is actually very helpful, and lots of clinical trial and other studies have shown this. And so reframing is again looking at kind of the worry in more kind of balanced way, more accurate way, or more positive way. So here I have an example that I have the worry that I think AI will replace my role. I will lose my job and I will never find my job again. So it tends to be a bit more extreme worries that we do all have in our head. And how can I think a bit more positively about that, that can actually help me to bring back that energy that I really need. So, one way to do it is that AI might actually change my job or role and lead to job loss. But maybe it's also at the same time an opportunity to really change my job and reconsider what I want to pursue that actually really better fits my strengths and values. This is looking at the same situation in a very different light. That is called reframing. And so that's it's something that we're trying to get to as it is one of the most effective coping strategies. But again, like it need a little bit of build up. So we will talk about it as a next step. And there are some other strategies that we all very commonly use. Those are venting. So like quick vent with friends can be very helpful to lower that anxiety. Do nothing is also very common strategies that people do. It is a strategy, just do nothing about it. And avoiding is another strategy. And all of these can actually help for us to, at that moment, feeling less stressed. But because we didn't directly engage with that source of stress, so that feeling of stress and anxiety will eventually come back pretty quickly and get worsen until we actually really deal with the stressor. So that's why they tend to be considered to be ineffective coping strategies. For the uncontrollable stressors, the distraction is an interesting one. So distraction, instead of dealing with my stressor, like watching TV, go and play video games, all of those things are considered distraction. And generally, previously people have just considered it to be ineffective because you're not really directly dealing with the things that makes you stressed. But it turned out that for uncontrollable stress, it can be actually very adaptive and effective stress. So I give you an example in psychology, what we often talk about for children when they're going through their parental divorce. When their parents are divorcing, sadly, many children feel like they're responsible for their parents' divorce. So they put a lot of effort trying to behave nicely, talk to their parents, try so hard that so that they can prevent the situation that they really do not want to face. But unfortunately, almost all cases that their parents deciding divorcing is nothing to do with them. So these children putting so much effort, hoping that things will change and engage with the situations is can actually make them only feel more disappointed. So in this case, perhaps the most more a better kind of effective strategist is that they just distracting themselves from what's happening with their parents, focusing on their study, focusing on their hobby, spend more time with their friends and other people who can support them. So that's why there is absolutely uncontrollable stressor that we have no influence over, like parental divorce. It's actually better that we take our attention away from it and put those into something that we have a control or influence over. And so that's why we want to engage with the things that we have a control over and we let go of those things that we don't have control over. So it starts with that clarity that what we can control, what we cannot control. And remember that, like, what good coping would really look like is that it helps us to feel better. We have more control over things. And, we feel like, we are at a right place, that we're engaged with our situation. So the third step, once you identify your typical kind of responses, see like how you're dealing with the situations. And then let's think about what you actually feel like you have a control over or you can have the control over versus what you just absolutely cannot have the control over. Example would be like me starting new initiatives, new tasks like this, providing and sharing information from psychology to better deal with the stress that people are feeling, like uncertainty, and helping people feel more like things are going in the right place and they're thriving. What I don't have control over is, like, for example, what the university will do in terms of the next kind of steps that, how I can teach and what I can teach and things like that, right? So those things with the AI, I don't really have a control over. So I give you some time to write those things down. Okay, so the step 4 is that the step 4 is to focusing on what we have control over. For the things that I can control, let's take one small step each time. So let's writing down our ideas for now, that one piece of information I will look up to deal with that situation, and one skill or action I will try to improve those things that I have control over. And one person I will talk with for help or perspective or just sharing thoughts together. So, what topics I want to teach is not what something you can, but yes, but what course I'm assigned to teach can control. That's right. My follower count, look up once, yes. So these are the strategies that you want to apply once you identify things that you have control over. For me, sharing these informations to help people thrive, I will be researching into what would be the topic that's most important to teach and share with other people. A skill or action would be organizing the webinar, and the person I'll talk to will be people who have done something similar like this, and then I learn from them. So, what about the things that I truly just cannot control? So now you have identified those things that you just truly cannot. For now, the best choice I want to suggest, just like the distraction, just let that go. That way you just let it go. You pull that energy that was going toward those things that you cannot control, and then you redirect them to things that you can control. Doing that I just don't have the control. Acknowledge that it's the clarity. It's not like giving up. You're just making your decision and investing your limited reserve of the energy more wisely. So we talked about things that we can control, what we will do to make sure that we feel gaining even more control and then putting that into more directions that we want to go. What about those things that we don't have the control? We'll practice let it go. That clearly identifying that I accept that I don't have the control over that whether AI will replace me at the university setting. I don't have the control over it and my job will disappear. I will deal with it when it actually happens. And I'll remember that I'm not alone and many other people, all of other university professors are in the same role. In the meantime, I found some other ways that I can really support students and people like through this type of lectures. I do have a control over that. And when uncertainty starts to feel like opportunity, okay, so we let it go, but that's not the end of it. That the psychology research actually suggesting that there are some people in this uncertain situation, they actually get very energized. They get very motivated because they see this uncertainty and instability as an opportunities to make change. That so how could that happen? And the research is suggesting that the kind of more inducing environment for that more positive perspective and more forward moving perspective is when the stress level is lower. So when someone in these uncertain situations, that stress level is lower, people can really have the ability to think differently. Remember reframing? That they can actually think differently in a way that it can lead to more actions and more changes. And that's why for us to not only identify the controllable and uncontrollable situations, if we want to thrive, we really need to thinking about how we're going to see this time as more the opportunities rather than crisis. And let me explain that why the stress is really important to manage, to have this clarity and more positive perspective is that when our stress level is really high, that our attention gets very narrow and our energy really naturally goes all into that way. And I study brain. So let me actually explain that in the brain, how that happens. So in the brain, we have this brain area called amygdala here. So I grabbed this figure from the paper. And with this amygdala is the our brain sensor to really detecting any threats that can be real or anticipate, oh, this might happen. So when we're on alert in these uncertain situations, it's the amygdala is highly, highly and sending other brain areas. This is what we need to focus. When it happens, then it actually lowers the function of the prefrontal cortex here in this area in the brain. And prefrontal cortex is the area we need for reframing. When we ask actually people to manage their negative emotions by using reframing, thinking differently about it, so calming their negative responses down, we see, even including my research too, that high activations in prefrontal cortex. So we need prefrontal cortex to help us think differently. This is very high level cognition. But when we're on alert, when we're stressed, when we feel like we're threatened, amygdala kind of interferes. We wouldn't let the energy goes to the prefrontal cortex. It all concentrate into amygdala. In short term, this is very important that we survive. We detect as fast as possible what's threatening us. However, you can see how our prefrontal cortex function slowly shutting down in these situations it's very hard for us to think more broadly at a higher level and then taking in broader perspectives. That's why it is very important that when we want to focus our energy onto things that we can control and have a more clarity on what are the things that I can control versus not control and keep stay on that route, we need to take care of ourselves first, that we're not very stressed. So I want to say to thrive in this very uncertain age, take care of yourself, your well being first. But think about even though your workplace, your environment, other situations can be stressful and feel unsafe or unsteady, that creating some areas that you can feel safe, you feel energized, lower stress, you feel like you're caring for yourself. This will definitely help you to have that more energy and clarity, and gradually as you gain more control in your life for things that you enjoy, it would really gradually help you that as your prefrontal cortex function works more effectively, that helps you to feel more energized by the new opportunities you're creating and some changes that's coming. It's the same change, it really depending on the perspective in a way that you can look at it in a very negative way or positive way. And how we can do that is a lot to do with whether we have that energy to believe that this is something that can be the thing that I can use to make positive influence in my life. So the last step that I want to suggest is that protect your well-being, that see whether you can try multiple things in this week. See what you want to try this week. The connect with someone going through the same thing, do something I enjoy, move my body or get outside, enjoy nature, spend a few minutes in quiet or meditation, learn something new, spend time with families and friends, rest and protect my sleep, return to the present moment. Thinking about all of these just makes me breathe, feel less stressed. Really creating your, I know you all are very busy, but really creating your time for these things as really the basis of you really going to help you to navigating with the more clarity, more agency, more control in this situation. Very, very important. Okay. So to sum up, the simple 5-step routine that I suggest to thrive in this uncertain age of AI. First, what is uncertain? Identify your worry. Second, what is my reaction? How do I feel and think and do in these situations? So just understand that your natural reaction to this and then reflecting on that. Can I control it or not? For yes, get more information, make plan, build a new skill, actively engage with it. For those things that you say, no, I cannot control, let it go, accept it for now, stay present, and really protecting and taking care of your well being so that you can redirecting your energy from those you cannot control into things that you can control. And over time, that you feel like things are really moving toward your direction. So, putting together my suggestion for thriving, deep thriving is being flexible and open about what you cannot control, coping actively and care for your well being. And all of those things together will help you feel more steady. And this will make a huge difference as we're in this long game compared to people who are not doing this. So I really suggest that you try this because, like I said, our natural automatic reaction to uncertainty is feeling stressed and anxious. And when it happens, our prefrontal cortex function goes down. We cannot think very clearly. So if you actually do these steps, helps you to feel more clear and think more clear and manage your stress and actively engaging with things that you have control, over time, the differences that's going to make with other people will be very significant. So yeah, just like I said, we're in a marathon. I When it first started, I wasn't sure how it's going to last, but it's becoming more and more clear that we're in this in a long stretch. It's not gonna be over very soon. Let's always thinking about protecting our energy and pace ourselves. And just a deep thrive that we wanna make sure that we have very this strong inner core that drive us and we sustain our effort and energy for thriving. All right. For now, I'm going to end today's lecture portion with two things that you can take with. One is that 5-step worksheet that we went walk through today. You have access to this. I would also include this in the newsletter that I share with you that you can do this week. Just practice and then make it also something that works better for you. And the other is the app that also this is going to be the questionnaires that you can self-assess that how much AI is right now helping you to feel like thriving or feeling challenged. So this is more kind of your self-assessment. So try these questionnaires if you want to have some more clearly on that as well. So you can click this link or you can use this QR code. So, yeah, thank you so much for your attention. And yeah, we could potentially also move to more discussions if people have questions.